Hey there, Benchmarks members. Welcome to another update. So we are going to go over a lot of different topics in this update, and I'm going to go through pretty quick, but a lot of this is information that is updating some things we've sent out before, and so you can make reference back to previous written updates that have come out. So first off, I think all of you know we have no budget. So we had long session last year. And in long session, which is in odd number years, you're supposed to create a 2-year budget in North Carolina. So we don't have a budget, which means as we go into short session, which is even years, which will begin in April, we normally use the short session to tweak the budget. But since we don't have a budget, we're not tweaking the budget. And we've already been told that the political standoff looks like it's in a place that it's not going to move, which means leadership is from the House and the Senate have pretty much already said to us they don't think we'll see a budget. The Senate has said they won't even put forward a budget. The House was indicating that they would put forward some mini budgets, but not necessarily a full budget. But then there was an announcement in the last Legislative Oversight Committee for Health and Human Services by one of the leadership members on the House who said that if a budget was going to go through for HHS, it wouldn't be a mini budget, it would be the full HHS budget. And what that means is that it doesn't include expansion of Medicaid, so it's not going to go anywhere because, once again, it would be vetoed by the governor if it ever made it there. And we don't even know if the Senate will take up any of the budgets that the House puts forward. They've all been very clear that they plan on this being one of the shortest sessions we've seen. Maybe 3 to 5 weeks, and they'll be in and out. As you know, November is a really big election year, and so they are quite anxious to get out of session, and they're kind of at the place of what's the point of being in session when we don't have a budget, and they don't see any hope for getting something through because of this ongoing impasse between the legislature and the governor. Now, I would note that without this budget, we are seeing impacts onto agencies. This is both the department level agencies as well as some of our private agencies. And the reason we're seeing this is that a lot of times the line items in the budget are 1-year line items that are not recurring, or they're 2 years not recurring. However, the line item needs ongoing recurring funding, but they just don't list it as recurring. And what they've done is every year in the budget, they've listed the line item again. Still not listing it as recurring, but just listing the line item again. So for those folks who did not have recurring budgets, line items, their money's going to run out. And that's a really big deal. And that's something that is impacting lots of the state agencies, but it's quite a few of our provider agencies as well who may have secured some funding for some type of services or work that they were doing, and their ability to continue it is going to be very challenging. So what this also means is that we don't expect to see Medicaid transformation moving forward. Now, if we don't get a budget in short session, the governor could call a special session between now and the elections. I don't know that that would happen, and even if the governor did, I still don't know that would result in a budget that would move forward transformation. But if we don't get that, and we're looking at a regular budget process, they can't put forward a budget until the next long session after short session ends. The next long session will begin towards the end of January of 2021. And we already know that there's going to be a lot of new legislators because we have quite a few legislators that aren't even running again this year, and we saw quite a few that lost primaries. So there's going to be a lot of new faces at the legislature, and when that happens, it takes a while for them to get up and running in committees and have offices assigned and all that good stuff. So the ability to get any kind of budget out is not likely for at least 2 to 4 months, and that's on the good side. So maybe April, maybe May, they could put together a mini budget that could just address Medicaid transformation and try to get that moving. But even if they were, best case scenario, able to get the budget out for Medicaid transformation in the spring of 2021, it still would take the department at least through the end of the year to get back up and running so that they could get the Medicaid transformation moving forward. And that means that we would not likely see standard plans go into play until February or later of 2022. And that, of course, means then the Taylor plans come approximately a year later. So that's a pretty long time, and we've got PHPs that have hired staff and are renting buildings. We've heard from some they're losing as much as $1.3 million a month to manage that kind of loss through 2022 would be pretty tough. Again, this is all speculation. Miracles could happen, and we might see a budget in short session. It's just not looking that way. So part of it is trying to figure out what happens at that point. So not only is this hard for the PHPs, but this is hard for providers. And part of the reason is the department is moving forward as if we will have a budget in short session. And so they're trying to get all the programs up and running that are part of the standard and the Taylor plan implementation. So for instance, they've been doing the RFP for the CMA. They did the RFP for the Healthy Opportunities Grant. The LME MCO RFA, I think, is coming out, should be in April. And so there's a lot of concerns over the fact that we're already moving on all these things, but if we don't get Taylor plans till 2022 or 23, a lot of this work is going to have to be rebid because we're not going to have the same situation a few years from now that we have today. So we've let the department know our concerns about this. Really where they stand is they have to assume that a budget's coming and they have to continue to plan forward. But this could be very problematic for a lot of our members and certainly for our PHP partners. So the other thing I wanted to mention to you is the ongoing cuts to the single stream funds are really starting to hit home now. Some of you may have seen some articles that have come out about cuts that VIA's had to make. I know Alliance has had to make some as well as Cardinal. But the single stream cuts that have been done year after year have really started to take a toll on the ability of the LME MCOs to continue services at the current level. We have a meeting set up with the Secretary of Health and Human Services with the LME MCO CEOs this month, and the intent is to go and to really get clarity on the department's ability to advocate on behalf of the LME MCOs and for the system to the legislature to stop the cuts that just are beginning to have devastating effects. And this is just the beginning, that it will continue to grow. So it's just really important that when we have this conversation with the secretary, that it is understood that this is both providers and LME MCOs coming and standing together on this issue, because this affects all of the people that we provide services to. And so going in as a collective front is a much better approach. And that's why we're going in to meet together. Also wanted to let you know that there was a notice that came out from us concerning the Family First Act, and there was the Family First Transition Act that provided funding to states to help support the Family First Act. North Carolina got $17.1 million. We put a call together because we really want benchmarks to put forward based on our member recommendation. Some ideas that we have about how the $17.1 million can be spent in preparation of FFPSA. The definition of how it can be spent is really, really, really broad, but we know that there's going to have to be a lot of evidence-based practices being built up. There's going to have to be the ability to set up a process and communication to be able to get the mental health services upstream to youth who are at risk of coming into foster care, which is defined by the Family First Act. So all of this in play, we just think it's a great opportunity for us to put our heads together and figure out what do we think is the most effective way that the money could be spent to really help us prepare for this transition to Family First. The other thing I wanted to note, a really nice bright side, is that the new mental health director was announced as Victor Armstrong. I think most all of you have probably met Victor at some point. He's been a longtime advocate in the field. He cares deeply about the people we serve. He's been committed to this work for many, many, many years. He is currently at Atrium Health and works on the behavioral health side. Anyway, we're really excited to welcome him in and look forward to working with him. Also want to note that March is Developmental Disability Month, so get out your tweets and your Facebook and other things and celebrate awareness around this month. and the amazing services that you guys do, and also the amazing people that you serve. And on a positive note, mentioning tweets, Twitter is actually cracking down on posts that dehumanize people with disabilities. So this is a really big victory for those of you who have Twitter feeds. It's a really good opportunity for you just to let them know how much you appreciate their decision making around this, and recognizing the importance of taking action around this. And finally, just to wrap up, you probably have heard of something called the coronavirus, maybe a little bit. That would be why you can't find any hand sanitizer or paper towels, and strangely enough, toilet paper. But anyway, so just a heads up that it's probably likely, if you have not already heard, you will likely hear pretty soon if you have some type of residential facility that you need to have an action plan in place in case there is, you do have a coronavirus case in your facility, or there's some action that happens that you could potentially have someone that is was exposed to someone who's infected. So our expectation is the department will be asking for something like this pretty soon, so you might want to go ahead and get a jump on that. As always, if you have questions or you'd like more information, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to talk with you. Have a great day.